Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I am your host, Frank Agin, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thanks for joining us today. Today I want to review an article that I came across in Psychology Today. It was in the May-June 2020 issue of Psychology Today in a section on relationships. And the title of the article is, Why is it hard to accept kindness? And I thought this was interesting. I'm admittedly somebody who is hard to accept kindness from others. I'm a hard person to shop for. I blame it on my father. We always blame it on our parents. But my dad, he doesn't have a lot of needs. He doesn't have a lot of needs. If he wants something, he goes and buys it. That's how he's always been. Certainly books. He loves to read. He's a voracious reader. I'll buy him books. He'll read books. And it's not that he gives them back, but he'll gift them off to somebody else because he accumulates a lot of books, gives them to the library or whatever. And I find myself to be much the same way. In this, I've just noticed this about myself. If I needed something, I would go get it. If I need something, I'd go get it. I don't really do a great job of having this big wish list that I communicate to other people. The story I often tell involves my wife and I when we were first dating. It was like that first Christmas, and she's struggling to find something to get me. And I'm not really a big help because it's like, yeah, I've got everything I need. There's nothing out there that I need. So she probably gave me an obligatory sweater or something like that she's trying to make an impression. And we saw each other. She went home for Christmas, and I was still in Columbus, or I went to my hometown in Houghton, Michigan. But whatever the case, I remember shortly thereafterwards being at a store. I think it was a Target. It doesn't really matter. And I ran across a Game Boy. And this was in the early 90s. And it's like, wow, that would be really cool to have a Game Boy. And so what I did was I went and I bought it, just figuring, hey, I would love to have a Game Boy. And when she connected back up with me, a week later, a few days later, after we were both working together, and she saw I had a Game Boy, she goes, "Why didn't you tell me you wanted a Game Boy?" And it's like, well, I didn't really know I wanted a Game Boy until I saw the Game Boy. It was kind of an impulse purchase, and that's just kind of how I am. Good or bad? I mean, some people think that that's a bad thing, or maybe not a good thing. That's just how I am. And I do a lot to try and help people. And one of the things I struggle with is when the tables are turned. Well, how can I help you? I struggle with that. And I need to get better. I know I need to get better. It's something that kind of holds me back. And this was a discussion I had early in the year when I had Dr. Wayne Baker on with his book, All You Have to Do Is Ask. I committed to being better at asking. And so it's something I'm going to continually try and work on as time goes on. So when I stumbled upon this article, Why is it hard to accept kindness, by John Amodeo, Ph.D., when I came across this article, it intrigued me. And reading the article, I'm not going to read the article to you, obviously, but in reading the article, it was like, okay, I'm probably not alone. There's probably lots of people like me out there that struggle with asking. Certainly in AmSpirit Business Connections, we encourage people to ask what's a good referral. And I think people are comfortable in that, in asking what's a good referral. A lot of those things are kind of a dependent sort of ask. Hey, this is what a good client looks like for me. But I think in more of a general sense, a lot of people struggle with accepting kindness, receiving kindness from others in a normal sense. In the AmSpirit Business Connections world, it's acceptable because everybody is helping everybody else. And so to ask seems normal. It is normal. And everybody's doing it, so it's okay. But when you're in another sort of a setting, it probably becomes a little more difficult. And the author, John Amodeo, he talks about what kind of brought this, what made him really think about this topic is he holds the door open for somebody, it's not a big deal, but somebody was holding the door open for him, making a point of it at a restaurant, and he went and he grabbed the door from the person and motioned them in first, almost as if to say, you know what, thanks, but no thanks, in a polite sort of a way. And that just got him thinking, why is this? So he came up with 5 things that get in the way of accepting kindness from others. So I want to kind of talk about each of those and just give us all something to think on. Certainly has given me things to think on. The first thing he indicated was that it's shameful to receive, and that when people are helping us, it's almost like we're admitting to a limitation, a flaw, or some sort of vulnerability. And so for that reason, we are uncomfortable taking help from somebody. Somebody might, be judging us as being needy, as not being all that we project ourselves to be. And I guess I would really have to stop and think in the moment, is this what I'm wrestling with when I'm not asking for something, or when I'm struggling when somebody has asked me, how can they help me? And that might be part of it. That might be part of it. I don't know. But he certainly has, done his research, and that was one of the things that he has come up with is that, we feel a degree of shame for asking. There's, sort of a vulnerability there. We all kind of want to be that superhero, that superhuman that doesn't necessarily need things. And that's not everybody. There are certainly people out there that do a wonderful job of asking for things. But certainly it's one limitation as to why people don't ask. The second item on his list is insulating ourselves. And he writes in here, not allowing ourselves support keeps us isolated and distant. It insulates us from intimacy. Some deep part of us longs for connection, yet when we're presented with an opportunity to connect, we're often not available to it. I see this as sort of a vulnerability thing. It's like, when you're accepting assistance or asking for assistance, you're letting people into the window of the world of your hopes and your dreams, and that can be a troubling thing. I see that in myself. I see it in others that people are reluctant to share what their goals are. They're reluctant to share what they really want because for fear they might not get them. And I know there are those out there who say, oh, you shouldn't be that way. I get it. I totally get it. And it's certainly something to work on. And we all have things to work on, but that can be a reason why people are reluctant to ask for or receive assistance, is that it just insulates us from being connected to people that we don't want to be that connected to. I mean, I think there are people that we're really okay with sharing our hopes and dreams with, and I have an inner circle and a circle amongst that I'm okay with talking about my hopes and my dreams, but I'm not just going to share it with anybody. And so, there's that reluctancy there that you wouldn't accept assistance or ask for assistance because it kind of gives them a little window in the world as to what you're really about and what you really care for. The third item was a desire to be in control. He writes, we like to live with the illusion that we have control over things, or that we should. Of course, we want to feel in control, and when we're asking for assistance or receiving assistance, there's a little bit of an admission there that we're not totally in control. And I'm not totally in control. Yeah, I'm in control as to whether I get a Game Boy or don't get a Game Boy or make these impulse purchases. And I think it's a little more than that. We want to feel like, where we are at any point in time is exactly, we want to create the illusion that where we are at any point in time is where we expect to be. And we're receiving assistance or asking for assistance, we're basically admitting that we're not there. And in reality, none of us is where we want to be at this point in time. I think I can certainly answer for myself. I'm not. I never have been. I don't know that I ever will be, to be perfectly honest. I think the horizon will always be out there. And as I approach my goals, I will just push those goals forward. To give you an example, not really related to business or anything, but it's just kind of how my mind works, and it works this way pretty much with everything. But I have a goal every year to have so many steps. I wear a Fitbit. I've wore a pedometer for years before I bought a Fitbit, but I track my steps. It's just a way for me to maintain a level of fitness and health, and it's just something I've done. And my goal has, started out with 10,000 steps a day, and that became real easy to hit, and I started to push that goal up, and then that goal became 12,000 steps a day for years. Now, I'm at about, my goal is to average 14,000 steps a day over the course of a year. Now, what's going to happen is, as I move through the year, if I get towards the end of the year and it's pretty apparent, and I have a chart, I know it's weird, but I have a chart, and if it's pretty apparent, I am going to hit my goal of 14,000 steps a day on average, I will push myself and say, you know what, I want to get to 14.5. I'm going to push myself. And that's just how my mind works, and it works that way in business as well. So the horizon is always out there. I've never been at a point where I said, okay, you know what, I've hit my goal, I'm just going to relax until next cycle, until next year. I'm always pushing things. So there's always something more out there. So I'm never really totally in control. Not that hitting goals is everything, but there's always something. I'm always kind of pushing myself, and I think most people do. And for that reason, we're not in control, and we're reluctant to ask for assistance because then we're admitting we're not in control. It's okay if I know it. I just don't want anybody else to know it. The fourth thing he has on here, and I think this is a biggie, an obligation to give back. And I remember years ago when I had a law practice, I was working with a coach, and one of the things I struggled with was I'm trying to grow clients, and there are some great businesses out there that I'm trying to work with, and I'd offered to do some things for free for them, and they never accepted. I just couldn't understand it. I was willing to do it for nothing. I just want to try and get more work down the line to endear myself to them. And my coach went on to explain, listen, when you do those things, they don't know what the real cost is. In your mind it's free, but they don't know what the expectation is down the line, and so they're not going to buy into it. And so they were reluctant to accept my kindness, albeit it wasn't totally altruistic, because they didn't really know what the cost of the kindness was. You got to give back. And I can see that, I can feel that as well. As when somebody wants to do something for me, it's like, okay, what's on the other end of this? And I think we're all kind of reluctant to with those things. Politicians, I'm sure, are reluctant for those things. Getting donations, okay, what does this mean? And same sort of thing in business or in life, is that if you're accepting something from somebody, there might be an expectation of some sort of reciprocity, and if you don't know what that is, it might not be a good deal, and so you're reluctant to do those sorts of things. And the fifth thing he has on here is you don't want to appear selfish, and that's certainly something I struggle with as well. Is I want to reciprocate, I want to help people. I don't want to be just the taker, and if somebody is doing something for me, if I'm not real clear as to how I can reciprocate, it makes me feel bad. I don't want to, and if I can't ever reciprocate, I just, I'm going to feel bad, and I'm not going to engage in it. So it's something that that holds me back with respect to accepting things, unless I'm really comfortable that there's a way that I can benefit them in return. Not that there needs to be any sort of matching. I'm not advocating that, but I do want to do my part to try and help people as well. And I think we're all sort of that way. So to recap, the 5 things he had was why it's hard to accept kindness is it's shameful to receive. We use it to insulate ourselves from intimacy. It's a means of remaining in control. We're worried about our obligation to give back, and we don't want to seem selfish. But he finishes up the article, and this is kind of the happy ending. He finishes up the article with a little bit of positive talk on what you should do. And he says, when someone offers you a gift, compliment, or a favor, Notice how you feel in your heart and body. Is your stomach tight or relaxed? Can you simply accept it? Don't overthink. Take a gentle breath and allow yourself to be open. And the key there is don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Am I deserving of this? Can I repay this? Don't overthink it. Just focus on helping somebody, anybody, pay it forward. And remember, and he points this out in the article, remember that by allowing them to help you, you're giving them that good feeling of helping somebody. And that's a gift in and of itself. And there are people out there, they just, they want to do things for you. I had somebody who referred somebody to me, and it was a wonderful referral. And they were just so excited that they had done something for me, because they had seen me do things for them, but really do lots of things for other people. And they just kind of wanted to give back. And, if I wasn't accepting of that, I'm really not insulting them, but now allowing them the joy of helping another person. And, we need to be open to allowing people to help us. So this is something that I need to continue to work on. I think if you're like me or anything like me, maybe it's something you need to work on, or maybe you know somebody that needs to work on it. Either way, either refer them this podcast episode, or you can refer them the article in Psychology Today, which was in the May-June 2020 issue, Why is it hard to accept kindness? And so I've done this whole podcast on accepting kindness, and I would be remiss if I didn't do this, is ask. I need to ask. But if you know of an entrepreneur, a business owner, or professional that seems to really enjoy networking, they appear well connected, and they might be involved with a chamber or a professional networking organization like AmSpirit Business Connections or BNI or similar organizations, they'd be a good person for me to meet. I would love an introduction to somebody like that. Would be kindness that I would certainly accept. As you know, being networked is vital to success, and receiving referrals is the most effective means of generating business. So if you know of such a business professional, work into the conversation this rhetorical question: if you had a choice, would you rather be a renter or the person who owns the building? Now, they're probably going to chuckle at that. They might have to think for a minute, but they're probably going to indicate that they would like to be the landlord. They want to be the person collecting the rent. So if they do, indicate to them that you're familiar with a franchise opportunity through AmSpirit Business Connections, where they're not just paying to be part of a networking organization, but rather they're instrumental in building the professional networking organization and profiting from it. From there, suggest they contact me using the email we provide at the end of the podcast or the one in the show notes. Or better yet, the best way to do this is to simply email them and email me at the same time, connecting the two of us. I would certainly appreciate that. They'll make more money from professional connections and also make money building professional connections. I would certainly appreciate that referral, that introduction.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connections. All rights reserved.